Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here are your hosts, Joe Kuzma and Brian E. Roach.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Steel City Underground podcast presented by the 2019 Legends of Pittsburgh cruise, sailing March 4th through the 8th, 2019. We, as in SCU, as well as the Legends of Pittsburgh cruise, invite you to join us on our 5th annual Legendary Tailgate at Sea adventure where you can cruise the Bahamas with your favorite Pittsburgh football legends. And I also want to remind folks, we've been remiss to maybe say this, but a portion of those proceeds also benefit the Players Legendary Causes Fund. So check that out when you go to book. Use the promo code SCU19. You can find out more about that at steelcityunderground.com/legendscruise. My name is Joe Kuzma, and we are here, we being Mr. Brian E. Roach, to bring you another edition of the Daily Steelers Grind, because we have a lot more to talk about other than the post-game or the referees, apparently. Brian, what's going on?
Was there a problem with the referees last game? I don't remember.
I don't either. I don't remember talking about them. In fact, no one talked about them. I do believe the comment was, we don't want to be fined. That's what we should start doing. Then yes. We won't sound like biased homers, even though we are.
Yeah, sure. There you go. Well, it'll be like a swear jar. We'll call it the referee jar. And anytime we blame the referees for anything at all, or make a note of a mistake that they have made, or I say the referees stink because they do, then we'll just add money to the jar.
You know, it's kind of funny. This is a family show because we like you to be able to enjoy it at work or in the car if you have young ears around you, and you have no idea how hard it was to not swear on the last episode. And for people who know me, a son of a truck driver, so it runs in the family. The F word's an adjective, a verb, a noun, everything, of course. Friendly, I think, is football. Those are the F words we like to use on this show, so we won't be throwing that around. Let me start our program here before we dive into the topic of the day, which will be injuries, and talking about the depth on the roster and all kinds of other things, and what are coaches supposed to do when players are injured. But let me preface this by saying, if you happen to arrive at our show and you're not a Steelers fan, welcome. If we didn't already mention it, we are homers and we are biased. So if you come here and you want to leave a comment, good, bad, or otherwise, criticize and be critical of the Steelers, have at it. We love to reply right back and not really debate with you, but if you don't keep it clean, it'll be either deleted, reported, and or you'll receive the ban hammer. So I just want to put that out there because we've had Patriots fans trolling on the YouTube channel recently, Ravens fans trolling, and we love all of our listeners, especially those of you who are part of Steelers Nation. But somebody from the Seahawks showed up in this thing, and if you start saying some derogatory things about Big Ben, I don't think it was the Seahawks fan that said it, but somebody else did. They went on a little tirade, and we had to take care of business there. So we love comments. We love engaging with all of you fans, football fans. We do have some general topic shows like the WTF that covers more than just the Steelers, but in general, we are Steelers people, so if you don't like us complaining about the officials doing a horrible job and causing the Steelers to lose a game, then you know what, that's tough luck.
and I'll just say this to everybody out there, how you doing?
How you doing? Hey, you know what, Brian? I don't want to talk about the referees much more, but I was almost certain. I asked. I was being a little bit of a smart aleck in the comments too, because I said, "Did I get dropped on my head?" Because I could have swore we mentioned some other things like Boswell missing a point after, and Ben missing a wide open Justin Hunter, and things of that nature. But when you have a punt return, and you're wondering why the punt coverage teams aren't so great, it's because you went through what does Tomlin say? A war of attrition or something like that. He usually has a buzzword for that. They lost so many bodies in this game, and a lot of those bodies play special teams. So you're plugging and playing, and you got guys that maybe, are not doing the roles that they're used to doing or having to flip-flop and do all these other things, that not only affects like just your regular depth chart when you're talking about running backs and receivers and the secondary and linebackers and all these other things, it affects special teams too, because where do you think these guys come from? And now they're playing more snaps, not only special teams, they might be pulling double duty as well. So everything takes a hit when people get injured, and that's what we're going to talk about today.
Absolutely. And I'm with you 100%. I don't want to harp on the refs anymore because it's over. It's in the past. And I tend to, once I get it out of your system, you know what? It's gone. But
almost
that doesn't equate the fact that they stink. It also doesn't negate anything to do with the fact that we did absolutely state, and I've stated this on Twitter several times, the refs aren't the reason the Steelers lost. They are a contributing factor, but the Steelers could have overcome all of that had they played better football. So let's not pretend that we're so homerish we're not recognizing the mistakes they made, because we did.
Yeah, I had a pretty big hot take coming too. It's going to be over on the website on an article I wrote about, the offense has to help this defense out. The defense has done their job several times, but as we've seen with the Broncos game, you can only overcome so many turnovers, and you keep losing a turnover battle. They would help themselves with some splash plays, but let's face it, defense is almost non-existent in the NFL. Don't make me go through the scoreboard again, how many teams are scoring 30 points. Even the Chargers gave up 30 if you look at it the other way here, but you know what? Just to reiterate here, you say you move on. I'm still mad about the Jesse James catch from last year with the New England Patriots. Now, that was one call. This game that was just occurred with the Chargers was multiple calls that directly attributed to points. You just don't say, well, they missed like a 50-50 call on this hold or a pass interference, and the Steelers might have scored points here, or the Chargers might not have scored points here. No, there was a false start that directly attributed to a touchdown. There was a punt return that directly attributed to a touchdown. Now, the offsides things, we could bicker all day and look at that as being a judgment call. I already gave my insight into the human eye and how things are interpreted and within inches and yards and things of that nature of just perception and depth perception with your eyes and things like that. So go back and listen to that if you didn't get to in its whole entirety. Today we want to talk about something else because there's a lot of panic out there. There are already people that are like, well, one of them is who is it? Pitt Bayless we were talking about. I wish I knew who coined that. That is so perfect with Andrew Filipponi talking about go out and get C.J. Anderson because all of a sudden there's panic that, James Conner's been ruled out already. No practice yet this week, so we don't have any official injury reports on anyone else. But thinning the herd after what was a war, or at least a battle in a larger part of the war, because, I was thinking about this too. A lot of people, cry spilled milk. Oh, the Steelers lost. It's like, well, the North's lost some battles with the South, and in the World War, Germany won some battles, but they didn't win the entire war. So, you're at war. The season is the whole war. This is just one battle. It will continue on until, you find out who, ends up with the trophy at the end. The other 31 teams do not. So, you move on, but you got to go to war. You got to have your soldiers. And it looks like the Steelers have some guys that are wounded here, to stick with that analogy. And we're going to go down the depth chart here. And the obvious one we're just talking about now is James Conner. So James Conner ruled out. They didn't say, was he specific on high ankle sprain, Tomlin? I don't.
He was actually very specific in stating he doesn't know that he could call it a high ankle sprain. It's a ankle sprain.
Yeah, that's the way he had said it. And people already, like I said, Andrew Filipponi is one of the radio personalities. Go out and get C.J. Anderson. We've heard some other people say this. You'll even have people going even – I'm actually shocked I hadn't seen more Kareem Hunt comments, because that would just be idiotic at this point to spend you need another guy that's on the exempt list or whatever, kind of like Le'Veon Bell, that's not going to play, probably for the rest of the year now with only like 4 weeks left. So I think the Steelers are okay with what they got. They have Stephen Ridley, who is a trusty veteran. He put some yards up when he played against the Texans and the Browns last year at the tail end of the season, and he's been fresh. He hasn't been playing hardly at all. and he's been inactive on some game days. They moved up Terrell Edmonds' brother, Trey Edmonds. Yes, there's a ton of Edmonds, just like there's a bunch of Watt brothers running around out there. So he's running back. He's like a special teams guy, too, as far as a kick returner. Second-year player, I believe. He was with the Saints last year, and then they let him go at the end of training camp this year. And so he's going to be on the depth chart, too. But the guy to look out for, we were singing the praises of this draft pick earlier in the year, and I think we're going to get to see. We've already caught flashes of how it is. He's already scored 2 touchdowns. They've already motioned him out wide like they used to do more frequently with Le'Veon Bell, and that is one product of NC State, Jalen Samuels, who I'm excited to see get more touches on the football. The Raiders defense doesn't necessarily strike fear in me as much. Actually, the Patriots defense really doesn't either. Maybe the Saints are probably the most stout defense left on the schedule. So if we got to ride the wave with Jalen Samuels here, he's not James Conner, but he also, just in the same way that James Conner offered something different than Le'Veon Bell as the feature back in the offense, I think Jalen Samuels will do the same. I'm not panicking here.
No, I'm not going to panic. Look, I'm going to say this unequivocally. If despite their history, despite the fact that they don't play well in Oakland and they have issues on the West Coast, if the Steelers can't beat the Raiders without James Conner, then I'm sorry that they might not deserve to be in the playoffs. The Raiders are that bad.
Absolutely, man. And I'll be bringing this up when we get Trey Johnson on to do Trey's Corner later in the week. We're going to be previewing the game a little more in depth, but just to go back and I looked, the last 3 games at Oakland, the Steelers have lost going back to 2006, and then again in, I think, 2011, 2012, and then 2013 is the one where Sean Swisham missed a pair of field goals. They lost by 3 with the horrid, 93-yard Terrell Pryor run that still haunts me. But
haunts us,
yeah, Sean Swisham was Mr. Automatic. Chris Boswell has not been as automatic, and we've got some people already talking, hey, we're going to bring in some guys for tryouts in the middle of the week and kind of threaten his job. Well, they just gave him a long-term contract, and the NFL kickers, we're going to start doing this the same way we do the quarterbacks, Brian. I don't think there's 32 starting kickers in the NFL right now either. This has just been a challenging kind of grind there, so it's really not on the docket today to talk about kicker depth because there's only one on the depth chart. But running backs, I'm feeling all right with. The wide receiver herd is also thinning. And the troops that are left there, of course, Antonio Brown, pretty much an Iron Man, JuJu Smith-Schuster. You got Ryan Switzer. You got a lot of people. We were talking about finding a guy to help kind of stretch the field. Send JuJu out there. I mean, geez. But James Washington's probably going to get another crack at this. Darius Hayward-Bay could even see some more playing time because Justin Hunter is now on the shelf, placed on injured reserve. And that was part of the move with moving Edmonds up just to kind of be a placeholder because Connor can't go too, just to provide some more depth there. But it's pretty much the same cast of characters. Justin Hunter's injury isn't bothering me too much because he didn't really play much the entire season. This was like the most playing time he's seen in like 4 or 5 weeks as well.
Yeah, look, the Justin Hunter injury is really a non-factor in the sense that in 2 years or year and 9 months of games with the Steelers, he's produced next to nothing. He's been great during camp, great during preseason, and then Justin Hunter kind of vanishes. I understand the temptation there, the thought that he could be something. It just hasn't panned out. So when you lose Justin Hunter, what have you actually lost? You've lost no production because there was no production there. So no, that's not something I worry about. It is a body. And that's the sense where you start to wonder how many more bodies do we got. Hay-Bay has been around for a long time. We know he's fast. We know he's not keeping the ball in his hands. Let's just put it that way. But every now and then he'll make a catch where you go, oh, hey, wait, who was that? Was that Hay-Bay? No way, he didn't make that catch. And then he'll drop one that, was right in his hands. But look, I think Ryan Switzer has, if he can go, because, he's in concussion protocol, so there's no guarantee, although Tomlin did say he feels positive about his chances to play on Sunday. But if he can't go, yeah, they're a little thin. And there's no getting around it. They're going to be a little thin. But I think Ryan Switzer has done a good job of taking one of those spots.
Yeah.
And maybe, as you said, maybe this is the time when things start to click for James Washington and maybe this is a breakout game.
Well, Hunter's long is 12 yards. He only has 3 catches for 21 the whole season, targeted 13 times. That's 10 times he's been off the script with Ben Roethlisberger at least. James Washington kind of on the same trajectory there. 8 catches on 25 targets, 77 yards though, and a touchdown and at least 14-yard long on the season so far. But there's plenty of other targets to go around. Vance McDonald, of course, and Jesse James eat into some of that as well. So as long as, James Washington doesn't monumentally screw up, run the wrong route, or miss a block or do something like that, this is an opportunity for him to get back in there. Ryan Switzer does have somebody that could be a placeholder, but we just don't know his status. Mike Tomlin keeps saying, did he say something on social media? And that's Eli Rogers, who had that job prior. And, his status, it's completely in the dark, and he's still on the physically unable to perform list, which I think is odd for this time of the year. Usually I thought there was a cutoff for that somewhere, and there might be, and maybe I'm just incorrect here. I'm going to pull up the Steelers roster because I think it's still there. But, people are asking that question because, of course, hey, here's a guy that is out there that's signed. Now, when they activate him, it's not like they could activate him and bring him in on Sunday because he's got to sit out a game. He's suspended. So they just can't, bring him right. Yeah, he's still on the active, physically unable to perform list, according to Steelers.com. So he's not a Band-Aid, at least for this week anyways. Even if he's out there practicing or anything like that, he's still got to serve a 1-game suspension. So, but you know what? As long as the Steelers stay healthy otherwise, what did we name here? We named 5 guys. They had 6 guys on the roster at wide receiver. I think that's a luxury for most NFL teams. 5 is about the norm. Nothing to panic about there. Offensive line almost had me panicked. I don't know if I mentioned this on the last episode or not, but I had to yank out the binoculars after Ben threw the pick when he was targeting Vance McDonald. And then all the offensive players, it always makes me cringe because I still think back to that Miami game when Ben took a cheap shot and guys are trying to make tackles, or you have Sean Sweejum on the other end of the Hall of Fame game in the preseason trying to make a tackle. And I don't want to see anybody get hurt. And I saw Alejandro Villanueva kind of try and get in the mix there and was slumping his shoulder and his arm. And I'm like, oh, geez. And I'm keeping an eye on him. And he didn't leave the game and by all accounts didn't show up on any injury report. But I look at the tackles. You still got Marcus Gilbert with his knees. He hasn't been around for, 5 games? And let me see here. I got it right in front of me. 5 games, Marcus Gilbert doing nothing. Oh, by the way, I pulled up Hunter's numbers. He had 18 snaps on Sunday, which is even low if it would have been James Washington. James Washington had 18 the game before, but was at 70, 46, and 35 in the previous 3 games. Do you know where Hunter was the previous 4 games? He didn't even play. He wasn't active. He wasn't active for 7 games this season. So I don't think it's going to be a big loss there. You look over at Gilbert, though. He missed the game earlier in the year, week 3. He's missed the last 6. I'm sorry. He's now up to 6 games missed, so 7 on the season. But Matt Filer had missed the game the previous week. I'm losing who we played now. The Broncos.
Okorafor.
Okorafor is who came in, but Okorafor would have had to come in for Villanueva, and guess who's behind them? No one.
Nobody. Yeah.
Who? Maybe Zach Banner. They're not active on the game day roster. So you talk about thinning at the herd. The tackles have to. Everybody on the offensive line needs to stay healthy, pretty much.
Yeah, they are. There's not a lot of room for error there, and they've been very lucky in the fact that the guys that have had to step in have done a really good job. They are definitely one more body at the tackle position away from being in having a real problem. We still have Finney to back up a guard if need be. We have Finney as a center backup, but the tackle situation right now is not comforting. Let's just put it that way. As long as they stay healthy, we're fine. But anybody gets dinged, and that's problematic moving forward. But the good news is these guys, when you're talking about Villanueva's been kind of an Iron Man. He just continues to play. And, I think the fact that Okorafor got some snaps is a good thing. But, man, it does make you nervous to think of having Filer on one side and Okorafor on the other and having to go into any place that has any kind of outside pass rush.
Oh, yeah. Well, definitely against the Chargers, I was thinking Bosa and Ingram. I'm like, oh, boy, that would not have been too cool there. Actually, we made a joke in the stands because, like I said, I don't think the Villanueva thing was seen. It was probably off camera or outside the frame if you're watching on TV. And, he was walking around on the sideline. He ends up coming back and playing in the game. And I said, but is his butt a flesh wound? I know you like your Monty Python there, Brian.
Flesh wound.
But compared to what that guy's probably done as an Army Ranger, it probably is a flesh wound. Probably isn't even close to that. So he just swats it off like a fly or a gnat and just continues going. Jumping over to the defense now. Defensive line depth, really, to its back. So that's a good thing. And I'd feel better if Marcus Gilbert got back on the field too. But we see what the defense is like with Stephon Tuitt there. Javon Hargrave has held down the fort incredibly. The guy is starting to blossom. Of course, you got your favorite grown-ass man in Cam Hayward there. When you do have the three-man fronts, Tyson Alualu, you got LT Latarius Walton. Dan McCullers didn't play at all on Sunday, which I found a little more odd than usual. Usually you wouldn't say that if it was 2017, but the guy had been seeing some decent amount of snaps, maybe about 8 to 10 here or there in certain situations, and it appears to have been an improved player this season. Across the board, they've been, now that Tuitt's back, they've been fairly healthy. Even when Tuitt was a little banged up, they had enough reserves there. Probably the one spot on the roster I feel most comfortable and confident in saying we're good.
Yeah, I'm not worried about the defensive line right now. I mean, look, the honest truth is you're one star player away from being in trouble regardless. So if any of your major guys go down, you've got a problem. But at least at the defensive line, we've got solid backups who've had solid playing time and have performed well during that time. Is it a step down from Hayward to it or even, Hargrave? Yeah, but is it – it's still – it's not, you're not picking up guys off the street. So that is a position where, we're pretty comfortable.
I was joking with our buddy Zach Celedonia, Z Flash, over on Twitter, whatever he's calling himself these days. He put up the poll with the running backs because I was talking about the panic there. Talking about picking up somebody off the street. C.J. Anderson was the one. Then he put up what? D'Angelo Williams or do nothing. I said, Twitter gives you 4 options. You should have put Niall Davis in there while you were at it. So remember when he was the hot topic last training camp and fizzle faded into oblivion. I wonder what Fitz Toussaint's up to these days. He's still with the Colts because I'm sure that ship has sailed. With Trey Edmonds, here's a guy that they have some flexibility with the roster, and they could release him and then release and catch back to the practice squad. Can't do that with Toussaint. That's why he was no longer around. He didn't have any more eligibility with the practice squad. So you find that in certain situations here with the catch release as you go to the linebackers because Matthew Thomas made way for Ola Adeneye to come on to the roster. Of course, with the transactions that just happened today, they brought why am I missing it already? I did say Matthew Thomas this time, right?
Yes, you did.
Yes, I did. Yep. Yes, I got it right, huh? See, we can improve in season, just like the players do. But Matthew Thomas back on the practice squad. But they feel comfortable at inside linebacker. We talked about some of the changes they made, probably to defend against the passing or attempt to guard against the passing onslaught of the L.A. Chargers. I keep wanting to call them San Diego out of force of habit. I'm going to have to get used to this now with Oakland. You got the Oakland Raiders, and they're going to be Las Vegas soon enough. So, aside from that, the Steelers made some adjustments there. So you got a little bit going on at outside linebacker. You had a bit of a scare heading into the Sunday night game with Bud Dupree with a pectoral injury. You have T.J. Watt, who the game before went in the locker room, wrapped his hand. You had Anthony Chickillo leave the game, get banged up. Not a whole lot going on there, and Ola's a rookie, so that's the outside linebacker depth. On the inside, they seem to feel okay with all this. You got Vince Williams, you got John Bostic, who played a low of 11 snaps, which was incredibly weird to me. And then, of course, they brought him in on third down, and he got beat on a pass down. It reminds me of the old chess game we used to talk about with Lawrence Timmons, whether or not you have him on or off the field, and it's scaring me. L.J. Fort played the game, probably the best game of his career. And you got Tyler Matakevich, who's been a special teams ace. The linebackers, though, provided Bud Dupree doesn't have any kind of nagging injuries or Chick or any of these other guys, as long as they're healthy, they're going to be okay. If they're not, just like everything else you said, they'll be in trouble.
Yeah, I think, when they only had 3 guys on the roster, which felt uncomfortable almost through the entire season because you were at that point 1 injury away from having to go all the way with just 2 guys. But now they've got 4. It's a little more relaxing in the sense of at least there's some bodies there. But, it's you've got solid starters. You've got halfway decent backups with Chickalo, and we don't know what we have yet with Ola. But we've all been dying to find out. So hopefully we will. Inside is inside. As you mentioned, Bostic played 11 snaps. I wish he'd played 10. But he and I don't mean to be down on him because he's actually had a pretty good year, much better than anticipated. But yeah, he was going to be taken advantage of, and you got to give some credit to the Chargers in that when we had the mismatches out there because. Keenan was covered by other guys at times. It wasn't always a linebacker on him, even though it felt like that. And that's because every time it was, they found him.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, he's playing slot and roaming the middle of the field. Guess what the Steelers have? 2 inside linebackers. It's not rocket science.
Yeah. So, you bring up we head to that last part of this, which is the defensive backfield. And I am a little bit less comfortable than I anticipated being because as much as I hate to say this, and I know, I would never put Trey in this position if I was talking to him about it. I'm now nervous about Artie Burns even being on the field at any point in time.
Yeah.
And there, it's not that I don't think Artie Burns could have talent. It's not that I don't think he'd come back. It's that I think his confidence is shot this year. And every time he gets on the field in a position, he gets taken advantage of and something bad happens. And I don't think it helps him. And they don't have any choice. I mean, if they get down to it, they have to put somebody out there. Did we say that it was Cam Sutton? He was hurt last week?
Well, yeah, he was. I think he showed up on the injury report, and he was inactive for the game.
Yeah.
So, in fact, I'll be able to tell you here. I'll bring it up. We didn't get to talk about the Artie Burns thing that happened, and a lot of people were really whining and complaining about it. But you have Morgan Burnett out. He was hurt.
Right.
You had Cam Sutton, who I believe showed up on the injury report, hurt. Hold on, I got it here because Morgan Burnett did not practice at all last week, and he had a back. It said personal, and they had it listed with just dashes. Didn't even say FP or DNP. And then I guess he was there Friday as a DNP and did not practice. So I'm not sure what was going on with Cam Sutton. And the odd thing about this is Mike Tomlin addressed this, and he was talking about smoke and mirrors because they didn't have Morgan Burnett and Cam Sutton. And Cam Sutton, a lot of people noticed Artie Burns had not been playing, and then they noticed when Artie Burns did get in. And Artie Burns got in, and we didn't get, like I said, we didn't mention this on there because we were talking too much about the officiating. But Sean Davis knocks Joe Hayden out. Joe Hayden goes into concussion protocol. The Chargers attempt a 2-point conversion. I think Artie Burns only has the 1 snap, and the play he gets beat on here is 38-year-old Antonio Gates just runs a corner route, and that was it. And 2 points, and I believe game tied at that point or close to it. It was that after the fluke Keenan Allen ball that popped up type thing, and everybody's like, "Oh, Artie Burns, he sucks," this and that. And I'm feeling that. I'm feeling for him, because he would have been a hero if not for the offside call on the blocked field goal. And
right.
He's certainly, like we said, he's got the physical tools, but I think he's more a deer in headlights. Now, I'm saying all this, and I'm looking at snap counts. I've been keeping track of this for quite some time. Cam Sutton has somehow fallen off a cliff and into the doghouse here. You had week 8, right after the bye. He plays 15 snaps on defense, which is 23% of the entire play. So not even a quarter of the game. And he's not a starting corner by any means. He's capable of playing on the outside if necessary. He's a nickel guy, but they found Mike Hilton. That's Mike Hilton's role. he plays 15 snaps. He doesn't play but 3 snaps again over the next 5 games, including being inactive on Sunday. But Mike Tomlin in his press conference specifically mentions that he didn't have access to Morgan Burnett and Cam Sutton. And I'm like, well, where's Cam Sutton been but for all of 3 snaps over the last previous 4 games, not including the Chargers game? Doesn't seem like they've been utilizing him. So it almost seems like, there was some conscious decision here that it's Joe Hayden, it's Cody Sensabaugh. Can't believe I've been saying that during training camp. And then, or back from training camp, I can't believe I'd be saying that now. Hayden, Sensabaugh, Hilton, as far as your corners. If one of those guys goes down, now what do? You have Artie Burns, you have Cam Sutton, maybe Brian Allen, who's been active but is more of a special teams guy. It does concern me, and then we'll talk about the safeties here in a second, of course, too.
Yeah, at this point, I don't know how they can put Artie Burns out on normal defensive snaps. To me, you can continue to give him playing time on special teams, but it's like you said. I mean, you put him out there, and he just looks like he's going to fail already. He already believes something bad's going to happen. The deer in the headlights things is exactly what it is, and that's a circumstance that I don't think can be addressed during the season. It has to be dealt with by getting a fresh start next year. And I think that's his best bet. We saw this happen in the past,
Absolutely.
Cortez Allen.
Yep.
Cortez Allen was on this exact same track. He was it looked like he was going to be the guy. He was having success, and all of a sudden, the confidence went, and he was just cooked. And he never recovered from it. And we have to hope Artie Burns can, but I'm not convinced, that when you start to get into mental games in your own head, and it's hard, it's really hard to recover from that. And we'll just have to see how it plays out. And I mean, you talked about it. They really have had some bad luck. Morgan Burnett was a decent signing that they had, hasn't been able to play a lot. Has been hurt a lot this season, and I think has made a big difference when he's been healthy enough to contribute. And I think we're all sort of surprised that Cam Sutton has pushed his way to where he is, because we expected more there as well at the beginning of the year. The other bright spot, Cody Sensabaugh, I think has played better than we anticipated he was going to. So that's the upside. But yeah, they're razor thin there, and the fact is, if one of the starters goes down, the guys that they have in reserve, I think, are not just suspect. I think they're going to be a detriment and a big one, and a liability when they get out there.
Yeah, that'll definitely. I mean, if you go back and think about how they lost Ryan Shazier and had to roll with like Sean Spence, that's the kind of downfall we're looking at if it were Joe Hayden. I mean, yeah, you definitely don't want to see anything like that. Just talking about Mo here, Morgan Burnett missed 4 games earlier in the year. He came back after the bye. Coincidentally or not, the Steelers defense had their turnaround from week 8 on. I still don't think the defense did too shabby of a job in spots, but they need some help. And I don't know what happens if you can't get Burnett back on the field. They originally had Nat Burhay he's on injured reserve. And there's no way he's coming back for the rest of the season. They chipped Jordan Dangerfield in at times, and he didn't play. I mean, they had him as part of the game plan there a couple of weeks ago with the Jaguars, and then he plays 3 snaps against the Broncos. Did not play, did not come in at all here against the Chargers. You're just kind of looking around and trying to see, well, what else is there that they can do? I mean, I think Terrell Edmunds and Sean Davis have done pretty much a very solid job, an improvement over what we've been missing since it was the tandem of Ryan Clark and Troy Polamalu. There's still not the splash plays there, but you're not seeing a whole lot of the stuff going downfield. Like, there were times with Will Allen, and, there's even times with Mike Mitchell, and Polamalu still being there. That's why I specifically mentioned Clark and Polamalu, because the tail end of Troy's career, he was banged up. He was injured. He'd gotten a little older. I don't know that he was necessarily the liability, but we saw it also continue with Mike Mitchell and Will Allen. We saw it even continue with Mike Mitchell and Sean Davis. And I think maybe Mitchell just wasn't maybe the proper fit with the Steelers defense, but you're not seeing those big pass plays as much. There's stuff here or there. The bend but don't break type of thing is still there. The Steelers defense, playing aggressive, sending a lot of blitzes. You see some of that identity start to crumble, especially with, they get demoralized when you're out there often, when you have things happen as far as calls or whatever. I mean, we saw Mike Hilton get beat, but there was a false start. Does Mike Hilton get beat if that play is run real time without any rules breaking, where half the guys give up on the play on both sides of the ball? I don't know. I'm not certain about that. So that was Travis Benjamin, I believe, former Cleveland Brown, now playing with the Chargers. That scored on that play. So I look at the safeties, and I'm trying to see what else is there, because Burnett's the main guy. It's what, just Dangerfield now, and then there's nobody else. They need to get healthy here. They're going to be in deep crap.
Yeah. There is nothing left. The cupboard is bare, and that's the biggest concern that I think I have on the team. Is the defensive backfield, because there just simply isn't the depth there that we expected for both, the defense, the corners, as well as the safeties. Jordan Dangerfield, we can make the Rodney Dangerfield joke about not getting any respect, but again, I think we've determined he's not a starter. He's not a guy, you can bring him in real limited spot work, but man, if he has to be the guy, you're in trouble. And that's where they're at.
Now, here's the guy I forgot. You got another rookie, like we said. You imagine all these rookies getting on the field. Played about a quarter of the game too. Marcus Allen, the other fifth round pick from Penn State. The other Allen is actually listed as a backup at free safety behind Sean Davis, Marcus Allen, and then Brian Allen, which I find interesting because I'm not sure I've ever seen Brian Allen. He played one snap last year, and I don't think he's played a single snap this entire season at all. Just Marcus Allen getting his first taste of playing time on last Sunday, and this is what it is. You got Ola, you got Marcus Allen, you got these guys seeing their first playing time. That's two cogs, two components right there. You have LJ Fort playing his most playing time ever in the defense. And Edmonds, by this point, is more seasoned than probably all of the rookies that the Steelers have had play or not this year, because he's simply seen the most playing time and been the beneficiary, by hook or by crook, of Morgan Burnett being hurt. So I got one more that's kind of a bonus here on the injury spectrum, and that is we saw Cam Canada get hurt, and he was sitting on the sideline, and Mike Tomlin was asked about it. Did you have plans? I do believe when Greg Warren was in Pittsburgh, Brian, the backup was James Harrison at long snapper.
Oh, yes, it was, and it was a disaster. Yes, it was.
So Mike Tomlin was asked about this, and he said, "We're gonna keep those cards, and we're gonna hold those cards." I believe is how he phrased it. He did not discuss or give any clue as to what the Steelers might have done there. And I kept getting thoughts of Heath Miller being the emergency quarterback and things of that nature. And I'm trying.
This is what they said on the broadcast. They said it was Vance McDonald.
Was it really? Wow, that would be.
That's what they said. Now that doesn't mean they're right. That's just what they thought it was.
Interesting. And there's a guy I don't really want to see playing special teams or be at any risk either. No. At least you can't line up straight up on the long snapper anymore. But yeah, there's something too. You have one long snapper. If you lose a long snapper, what do you do in these situations? You have no other
major problem.
Yeah, you have no other corners. You got Artie Burns out there. Why are you playing Artie Burns? Fire this guy and everything like that. Now, we're going to be talking about maybe coaches and firing coaches and things of that nature, because of course we see what the Raiders went out and did. They had to get their Super Bowl winning coach. They had to improve from Jack Del Rio, and yeah, that's not working out too well for them, and we're going to be looking at that, previewing it as the week goes on here on the Steel City Underground podcast and our various editions.
Yeah, I do want to say one more thing about the running back position, because the beat writers are bringing this up, and people, of course, are going to get on this track, and we didn't mention it. Just get the heck out of here with this Le'Veon Bell nonsense. And the assumption that, well, this is why they should have made sure he's in camp. Le'Veon Bell was not coming to the Steelers camp this year. Le'Veon Bell was not going to play for the Steelers this year. He was butthurt and didn't want to come, and he wants to be a free agent. Forget it. This isn't the Steelers are like, well, they didn't do enough. They did as much as they could. I'm like, that narrative is going to drive me out of my mind this week.
Yeah, just the mere mention of this is why they wanted Bell or blah, blah, blah. And it's like you can't predict injuries. Like, you know what I mean? You try and plan as best you can. And what they were planning for was if Bell wasn't there. That's why they drafted Jalen Samuels and they re-signed Stephen Ridley. Come on, folks. Yep. Their plan there was that's the reason why they drafted James Conner the previous year. You can't plan for some of these things. There's a reason why some players are backups and some players are starters. And any team that loses any type of starters, particularly those who are veterans and or stars, it's going to impact them. Every team deals with this now. The Steelers, who have been relatively healthy throughout the year, are going to have to deal with this as well. I got some other breaking news too, Brian. Apparently, the Redskins, who have dealt with some crazy injuries at the quarterback positions. Yeah, Landry Jones is getting a tryout there. He gets the backup Mark Sanchez, and if the people in Washington are bright enough, they'll let him play in place of Mark Sanchez. So
no butt fumbles. Put the goat out. Leave the butt fumbles on the side.
Oh, my goodness. That was so bad. I'm sure Terry's going to cover that in an upcoming WTF edition of our show. My name's Joe, and his name's Brian. Brian, thank you once again for joining me. We look forward to seeing you in the Steelers light-up sweater. I don't call it an ugly sweater because they don't call it that on their website over at Foco.
And it's not ugly. It's awesome.
No, it is awesome. So,
I'll be doing a video later. I'll do a video pod at some point, maybe next week or late this week. And I'll have it on.
Yes, I can't wait. I wore mine around tailgating, and it got quite a bit of attention from all of the fellow Yinzers that were out there. So that was great.
All right. Before you sign off, let's just both of us give an OH.
I don't know if we should be, man. There's kind of bad news going around there as well.
But it's in honor of.
Oh, okay.
And saying goodbye to one Urban Meyer.
Yeah.
And that's why I gave you the OH and I led you into it.
I'll throw up the IO. I know we're going to annoy some of the Penn State fans that are listening in, and
yeah, wow.
And even some of the neutral Pitt or West Virginia fans and wherever you may be listening from. We enjoy having you listen to us and support the show. If you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe. Leave us some comments. We love those too. Those have been great. Just, once again, be careful. If you're from another fan base, you're asking for it. My name's Joe. His name's Brian. Until next time, be safe, be good. We'll catch you later.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.